everyone, Christina here. Welcome to day 9 of the holiday card series for 2017. Today I'm going to be doing one of my minimal supplies cards where I'm just going to watercolor and use pens to create a whole card design. So I'm starting out with some Canson XL watercolor paper, and I've cut and folded this to be a standard size card. So before I folded it, it was 4¼ wide by 11 inches tall, and then I folded it in half. And now I'm taking a cap from an embossing container. Really, you could use anything that's circular. You could use a small cup or a shot glass or even the lid to some sort of cosmetic makeup or something like that. You just want something that's a little bit smaller. And I'm tracing 3 circles onto the front of this card. My idea is that I'm going to have 3 Christmas tree ornaments that are hanging in a group. And I thought that'd be kind of fun to watercolor them and have kind of a different mix of colors on each one. So the watercolors I'm using today are from Joy Art. These are the ones that I used a few days ago or a few videos ago, and all I did was I squeezed those tube paints into a palette and I let them dry overnight or a couple days, and then you can reactivate them with water just like any other pan watercolor set. I did notice after they dried that they dried with a very cracked surface, but that doesn't affect how they work. You can still just get them wet and use them as regular watercolors. So I used a yellow ochre shade, and then I brought in some of this rose color, and I'm just letting it kind of bleed in from the bottom. And then I brought in a violet shade at the very bottom. Now these colors, I was kind of worried they wouldn't look good mixed together, but in the end they turned out really, really great once I had the other 2 ornaments painted as well. So I'm using my heat tool just to speed up the drying process, but you could definitely let it dry just in the air. And then I moved on to the other 2 ornaments. So I'm starting with that same rose shade, and I'm painting this entire circle. I want to make sure that the entire surface is kind of coated enough with wet paint. So I'm bringing in some purple along the bottom, and I'm going to make sure that those 2 colors meet a little bit higher than the middle of this ornament. I want the colors to really mix and have a nice variation in color. I'm going to move on to the other ornament while the second one dries. And this time I'm starting with purple. And I'm going to paint most of this, and then I'm going to bring in a blue shade. And this blue shade is going to darken up the bottom of this last ornament and just give it a nice transition of color. So I mostly used yellow on the first one, and then I used pinks, purples, and blues on the other 2. And I'm going to let this dry for a little bit and then use my heat tool to speed up the process just because I'm impatient. But you definitely could just let this air dry without any problems or having it affect anything. So after these were dry, I took a white Posca paint pen, and this is the smaller fine tip version, and I drew on some snowflakes, just freehand snowflakes. And I actually opened up Google Images on my phone and Googled some snowflake images just to give me an idea of some different things that I could do when I created these snowflakes. You could also reference a stamp set or any other illustration where there are snowflakes if you wanted to. I just took some elements from different snowflakes that I saw online and kind of created my own. And a thing that I like to do is to add dots on the ends of the arms of the snowflake and also dots in the center. Just gives it a little bit more of a delicate look. So I added snowflakes to the other 2 ornaments as well, and I did different variations on the same design. And I thought they turned out really, really well. And using this white Posca paint pen worked extremely well for painting over this watercolor. I did try it with a regular Uniball Signo Broad white gel pen, and I couldn't get it to flow very evenly over the textured surface of this watercolor paper. So if you're having trouble with getting a white gel pen to work, you might switch to a paint pen. And speaking of paint pens, I'm going to take this metallic silver Sharpie paint pen, and I'm going to draw on the little hanging attachments on the top of these ornaments. I did that by drawing a really simple rectangle at the very top of each circle, and then drawing an outline circle for the little metal loop on the top of the ornaments. So having a little bit of this metallic texture is going to give a little bit of a different look, and it really makes these ornaments look like ornaments instead of just 3 circles. I think it really lends itself to that whole idea of having the 3 ornaments hanging on the card. So then I took my ruler and I drew in some black lines coming from the tops of these ornaments. I just used this black Pilot envelope addressing pen, but you could use whatever black marker you have on hand, or even if you wanted to use a metallic pen or something like that, I think it would look really lovely. And speaking of switching things up, you could have done the snowflakes in that silver paint pen as well. I think that would look really great. So I'm adding on some bows and strings, showing that these are looped and tied on to the ornaments. And then as far as the greeting goes for this card, I decided to do a very fancy lettered word. And the word I'm using is cheer. And then I'm using my ruler and I'm going to move a line. I had some lines on there earlier and wasn't quite the right placement, so I did end up moving it. But then I wrote on the words sending holiday. So the entire phrase is sending holiday cheer. And I wanted the sending holiday to be in very simple, all capitalized letters. And then I brought in a gray brush tip marker. And this is a Pentel, oh gosh, this is a Pentel sign pen. And this is a gray color. It's just a little bit lighter than black. And I thought it would work well for letting the black writing of sending holiday kind of look like it's sitting on top, but still have the very loopy and fancy word cheer on the card. So I used a pencil eraser just to clean up all of those pencil lines, and then the card was complete. So I hope you guys love this card today. It was really fun to create, and you could definitely switch this up and change what type of ornaments or shapes of ornaments that you paint. Thanks so much for watching. I will be back tomorrow with day 10 of the Holiday Card Series.